Logan Paul is a fan favorite in the WWE, but on YouTube these days, not so much. CryptoZoo went down in flames and Coffeezilla reported it as a scam. Logan replied with a threat to sue him and took major heat for it.
Coffeezilla, I now know your motives with this, clout and money, and I'll see you in court.
So he retracted his threat, made a classic fake apology video, and moved on.
Coffeezilla is not a criminal. I called him, I apologized. My initial response to his series was that a fire, an ego, flair, whatever it is, pride. I'm a fighter at heart, and I was defensive because I know I never scammed anyone with this project. I never made any money, never sold any tokens, and I only had the best intentions going in. But the fact is that suing Coffeezilla is not gonna help CryptoZoo holders, so I do need to focus my attention where it should be, which is on fans and supporters of me.
Coffeezilla wouldn't let him off the hook though and kept pressuring him to issue refunds.
Quote, "Hey Logan, following up on the Zoo refunds, when should people expect those? It's been about a month." And then a month later, following up again. People are wondering what's going on. Almost been 2 months. Very frustrating for victims to get promises and then see nothing and get zero communication. And then later, "Hey Logan, following up for a third time, it's been over 5 months since you promised to refund the victims of CryptoZoo over $3 million.
Logan finally came through with a $1 million buyback program out of his own pocket. Commendable, perhaps, but pennies to a soon-to-be billionaire. All good now though, right? Well, the other day, Logan sued Coffeezilla for defamation, claiming that Coffeezilla acted with intent to damage his character and intentionally left out key evidence. Could Logan actually win this case? Let's examine. I've been sued twice for defamation because of YouTube videos, so I feel uniquely qualified to speak on this case. The first step in any defamation case is figuring out if the plaintiff, the guy suing, is a public figure. Logan is a globally recognized entertainer, athlete, and entrepreneur. You have private figures, limited purpose public figures, and all purpose public figures. With defamation cases, if the plaintiff is a public figure, then it alters how the plaintiff will need to argue in order to win the case. More on this in a minute. Logan Paul is a WWE superstar, 25 million social media followers, internationally known, and very easily considered an A-list entertainer. It's safe to say he's an all-purpose public figure. Why does this actually matter?
In terms of proving malice, which Logan will need to do because he's a public figure and Coffeezilla is a journalist who's talking about this matter of public concern, and so Logan needs to establish that it's not just that Coffeezilla got the facts allegedly wrong or accused him of doing something he didn't do. It's that Coffeezilla either knew that those facts were false, or those alleged facts were false when he made them, or he recklessly disregarded the truth when he made them. And
Finn Dyson has perpetuated the false narrative that Paul scammed and defrauded his own fans in connection with the project. This is essentially the core complaint made by Logan. He doesn't believe he scammed, and to be painted as a scammer in a popular YouTube series was not fair to him. Despite being in possession of and purposefully omitting from his series and related statements overwhelming objective evidence that Paul had, in reality, been enthusiastic about the project and deeply committed to its success, only to be deceived by several of the project's trusted advisors who turned out to be con men. I'll cover this in detail near the end, but this statement makes this case at least a little interesting and worthy of analyzing the arguments because what they're alleging is a pretty good argument for acting with malice. Coffeezilla's lawyers will help protect him legally, and I want to share with you how today's sponsor Aura will protect you digitally. A scammer tried to hack my accounts the other day, including texting me that he was doing so, but I was never worried because I knew Aura had my back. My account regularly receives alerts notifying me of all the ways scammers might be trying to find my passwords or personal information. One way they can do this is by buying your information off data broker websites. Data brokers are making a fortune selling your information to robocallers, spammers, and others who want to learn more about you, like where you live, which is a little terrifying. Aura can identify data brokers exposing your info and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers are legally required to remove your info if you ask them to, but they make it super hard to do. Let Aura handle it for you. Recently, Ticketmaster was hacked and the data of 560 million users were put up for sale on the dark web. The data stolen includes full names, addresses, email addresses, phone numbers, and credit card data. At best, this is going to lead to so much more spam. At worst, fraud. So what is Ticketmaster doing about it? Nothing. They said they didn't think the hack would have a material impact on our overall business. I use Aura because all these businesses happily collect our data but do nothing to protect it. If my info was compromised in the Ticketmaster data breach, I wouldn't worry because Aura is always on, always doing the hard work of keeping me safe. Aura wants to protect your private information, which is why they're offering my audience a 14-day free trial. Go to aura.com/Spencer to get a 14-day free trial. How amazing is that? Much of the lawsuit is detailing how Logan created this project and how he had a belief in the project's success. They also present the argument that he did not intend to deceive anyone with this project and was actually the one who was scammed.
Logan's previous behavior does factor into the damages aspect of this case. If CoffeeZilla could show that Logan's reputation was essentially couldn't get any worse and is therefore impossible to defame him further, then that could be a good argument against Logan's damages theory. So it's relevant, certainly, and I expect that CoffeeZilla will point to or try to point to facts that say, look, Logan already had a bad reputation before this project even happened, and nothing that I've said has made any material difference in terms of how people view Logan Paul.
These stories are complicated because there's actually two stories here. One story is that Logan Paul created an NFT project and promoted it to millions of people. His fans invested in this project. It was a failure. Nothing was delivered and refunds were not given. That is a fact. Unbeknownst to Paul, however, Greenbaum and Ibanez were con artists. Both men lied about their resumes, knowledge, experience, and intentions. The second story is that Logan Paul might have been scammed as well. He still has some responsibility, of course, but this complaint happened because he felt like it was defamatory to claim he intentionally deceived his audience through this project. CoffeeZilla's investigation into blockchain transactions showed that Greenbaum was by far the biggest seller of Zoo tokens, netting more than $6 million from improperly buying and selling Zoo tokens without permission. His investigation also revealed that Ibanez was also secretly selling Zoo tokens and that he made approximately $1.7 million from doing so. To me, it's pretty clear who the bad actors are in this project, so calling Logan Paul a scammer is probably not entirely accurate, given that the insinuation is that he intended to deceive. But that's not really important. What matters is if using that word is defamatory, whether accurate or not.
The word scammer by itself is not necessarily defamatory. What matters is how that term is tied to specific facts or other specific actions. It's like calling somebody a racist. If I call someone a racist without more, saying that by itself is not something that the law will treat as being defamatory. Instead, if I say this person is racist because they did X, Y, and Z, or this person's a scammer because they did this specific thing, then those allegations could potentially support a claim for defamation. But just calling someone a scammer without more is not going to cut it.
You've probably heard the cliche phrase, truth is the best defense to defamation. Yes, that is accurate. However, it's not always so simple. Most defamation cases are not simply black or white. Life is complex. Business disputes are complex. Dealing with people's different perception of how an agreement was supposed to be handled can be complex. Ibanez and Greenbaum may even have evidence indicating they believe they were scammed by Logan. You've probably been in the middle of a boyfriend and girlfriend fighting before and heard both of their sides, and then thought to yourself, man, I don't really know who to believe. So when people say truth, it's not always so simple because people present their versions of the truth, which sometimes conflict. Finn Dyson also concluded that at the end of the day, the number one problem and the true boring reason for CryptoZoo's ultimate demise was Ibanez's failure to pay the game developers on time, despite Ibanez also netting millions of dollars from illicitly selling of Zoo tokens.
So CryptoZoo is already being sued, and Logan are being sued in a class action over what happened with that project. So it's not clear to me that CoffeeZilla sort of piling on the allegations that are in that case and accusing Logan of more wrongdoing would additionally hurt his reputation somehow.
Finn Dyson then asserted that Paul is nevertheless not innocent in all of this because he was the face of CryptoZoo and ultimately failed to deliver a viable game. One of the major fallacies with lawsuits is people believe that someone is going to win or lose a lawsuit because of one phrase or one word. That's not how it works. The process is full of motions and court filings of essentially lawyers building up your best arguments to present to a judge. And the judge should fully read all arguments presented by both sides, analyze the evidence, confirm previous case law matches the arguments presented, and then ultimately make a decision. CoffeeZilla's conclusion, albeit made reluctantly and opaquely, was essentially that Paul was guilty only of putting together a team that was not up to the task and of failing to effectively manage the project. That, of course, is far different from intentionally engaging in an effort to scam people and to commit financial fraud. I think CoffeeZilla's legal team will present to the court the argument that the videos did include mention that Logan Paul shouldn't really be labeled as a scammer. In my opinion, that'll be a pretty strong argument because if you make a video alleging someone affords their lifestyle because they sold illegal drugs, but then at the end of the video share that you couldn't really find evidence indicating that they sold illegal drugs, then you didn't really defame them even though your initial allegation was a defamatory false statement of fact.
How does someone prove that they have a good reputation? Well, they don't have to. It's not an element of a defamation claim to establish establish that you previously had this sterling reputation that has been harmed. You just need to show the harm part. So it's not Logan's burden to say, everybody loved me and I was this, icon of good business beforehand. He just needs to show that whatever his reputation was, it's been harmed by what CoffeeZilla has done. It can be helpful to show evidence that he had a good reputation, and that could be introduced through things like character witness testimony or public surveys or something like that.
Despite referring to Logan Paul's scam in the name of each part of his CryptoZoo series, the reality is that Finn Dyson knew from the outset of the production and publication of his series that the notion that Paul set out to scam anyone was completely and utterly false.
It's not really clear now that Logan's case is a slam dunk or even a winning one. I think that you can imagine a situation where if you're describing a project that is admittedly a scam, that Logan even said, look, my business partners intended to rip people off. It was all them. And he's the face of the project. You can argue, I think, that CoffeeZilla is within his rights to say this is Logan Paul's scam and not have that specifically mean that Logan Paul was the mastermind of the scam and that he had involvement and intention behind how it ultimately played out.
There's three elements that are really important. One, are the claims accurate? Did they actually happen? Two, can the plaintiff actually prove damages if the alleged wrongdoing occurred? And three, will the defendant be held liable for these damages? Even if CoffeeZilla said something false in the video, that doesn't mean he's going to be held liable in a defamation case. Logan Paul being able to prove damages from these allegedly false statements is going to be incredibly difficult.
For Logan Paul to prove damages in this case, what he would have to show is that the things that CoffeeZilla said hurt his reputation and caused him some economic or reputational harm, which might be difficult to do in this kind of case because it's undisputed, even by Logan, that CryptoZoo ultimately was a scam. He's just saying that he didn't know about it, he didn't intend for it to break that way, and he's really throwing his business partners under the bus for the whole thing.
You do have what's called defamation per se, where you don't have to prove damages, but that's mostly reserved for very heinous statements towards someone with absolutely no credibility. Whether Logan should or shouldn't be called a scammer is mostly irrelevant because his fans lost money, and that's objectively true and conceded by the plaintiffs. Despite his knowledge that it was fundamentally false to accuse Paul of operating a scam and to describe CryptoZoo as Logan Paul's scam, Finn Dyson persisted in doing so because he knew that accusing a public figure like Paul of engaging in a crypto scam would generate substantial viewership for his YouTube videos, earning Finn Dyson a higher profile and greater income in the process. My pushback to statements like this is that Logan's team took 18 months to file the complaint. That doesn't mean they'll immediately lose the case, but it doesn't exactly signal that you were being damaged. In theory, you would file the complaint immediately after the videos if you believed the person making videos about you was acting maliciously. The harsh truth of the legal system is that the judge is all that really matters. In my case, the judge did not grant the anti-slap, and my arguments were significantly stronger than CoffeeZilla's in this one. My case is a clear-cut example of a slap lawsuit, and my lawyers presented bulletproof arguments as to why it was a slap lawsuit, and it still wasn't granted. I bring that up because the judge could wake up one day and have zero interest in granting an anti-slap motion for CoffeeZilla, and all of his research and all of his careful planning about what words to use or not use in a video could be rendered irrelevant. This next paragraph is really interesting to me, and I'll tell you how it relates in a second. Logan and CoffeeZilla got on a call, and in relevant part, Finn Dyson expressed his belief that Paul was not a bad actor, but that he had gotten caught up with bad people in the CryptoZoo project. He complimented Paul's buyback announcement, stating that it was a noble thing to do and that he had never seen this type of initiative carried out. Logan Paul believes that CoffeeZilla essentially made the videos to call him a scammer, yet privately tells him that he actually thinks Logan isn't a bad actor and insinuates that Logan was the one scammed all along. Do I think this means CoffeeZilla was acting unethically or will lose this case? No. But what matters is how the judge perceives what's written in the complaint and the motions that will be filed. I'm assuming that CoffeeZilla is first going to file a motion to dismiss and also file an anti-slap motion because Texas has strong anti-slap protections.
And basically the way anti-slap laws are supposed to work is if you get sued as a defendant for some conduct that was in furtherance of your First Amendment rights to talk about some issue of public concern, then you have an opportunity to shift the burden to the plaintiff to convince the court that they have a probability of succeeding on that claim.
All that the judge needs is the belief that CoffeeZilla may have acted with malice and is curious enough to proceed with discovery. When someone files an anti-slap lawsuit, discovery is stayed, meaning it's held off until the judge rules on the anti-slap motion.
And the policy behind that is to curb frivolous lawsuits that are just designed designed to stop people from talking, basically. So because Texas has an anti-SLAPP law, Coffeezilla will probably try to avail himself of that anti-SLAPP law and bring an anti-SLAPP motion in connection with these defamation claims.
If the judge believes that discovery is warranted because there's some belief that Coffeezilla may have acted with malice, then he may not grant the anti-SLAPP. Logan's team argues that there were important text messages missing in the video that would have made it more apparent that Logan Paul was actually a victim in this project as opposed to being a scammer. Finn Dyson purposefully omitted these and other examples from his series because he knew that they flatly contradicted any serious suggestion that Paul was perpetrating a scam. Does this change the narrative in the videos or mean Coffeezilla was acting maliciously? In my opinion, no. However, remember, it's all up to the judge. And when they hear the words omitting evidence in order to further allege an accusation that may be false, the judge may want to go through with discovery to figure out what else was omitted. Even worse, Finn Dyson affirmatively distorted the excerpts he did include, taking them out of context in an attempt to falsely portray Paul as a knowing participant in a nefarious money grab.
And so, if that's true, if Coffeezilla knew that, okay, Logan had no intention, in fact, wanted this to succeed and have everything be above board, but still made statements to the effect that, okay, Logan intended for this to become a scam and he wanted to rip people off. If Logan could establish all of that, then that would go a long way towards proving malice.
Logan responded to Coffeezilla after the videos were released. I think Logan actually had a huge opportunity to turn the situation into a positive and failed miserably. Logan should have allowed Coffeezilla to interview him for a separate video and answer any and all questions and refund all of the holders. Logan probably makes in excess of $10 million per year in the WWE. With Prime selling multiple $1 billion of hydration drinks in the first 2 years of existence, its valuation is probably around $3 billion or more already. Logan probably has around 10% to 15% equity, meaning his net worth just from Prime alone is over $300 million. Even if he feels like he's a victim, he easily had the financial capability of refunding everyone live on a Coffeezilla video where he could have earned so much respect from the audience. Instead, he's going to spend millions of dollars on multiple legal battles instead of sending the money to the victims. Logan is going to be faced with a massive judgment for the victims on top of paying millions of dollars in legal fees in the separate class action case involving CryptoZoo. Will Coffeezilla lose this case? Absolutely not. Could the judge completely screw up on an anti-SLAPP motion and drag this case out for years? I will tell you from experience that it's possible. Thanks for watching.